been gifted with the evil voodoo. Got me coming back for more, even when I
Welcome to Dear Dana. It is Saturday night. We have very special guests tonight. Go ahead and hail to the count of 4. Hold it. Exhale through your mouth to the count of 4. Hello there in the bushes. Welcome to Dear Dana. Tonight we'll have very special guests. Beth and Rick Olsen. Hello, April Showers. Again, inhale to the count of 4 through your nose.
Everything that you did,
hold it
you said,
count of 4.
I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black
exhale
and blue
through your mouth to the count of 4.
I feel like when I'm with you I'm losing. I feel like you think that this amusing.
Take all the things that don't serve you well for the week.
Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry. The conclusion.
Shake it off.
Even though I offer all of the solution.
One more time.
I wish you loved me like I love you. It's stupid. When I'm alone with you, I never feel lucid.
Hold it.
I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when
exhale
I
to
you,
the count of 4 through your mouth.
When I'm with you, I feel so useless. I feel diluted. My heart's
excellent. Hello, Marie Crumb.
Silhouettes of you.
I'm gonna go ahead and let go of that music.
Never
It's
really
magnific.
what you want. With you, I
know
don't
how important I feel like conscious breathing is. It'll be your best friend for the rest of your life. It reduces stress, blood pressure, anxiety. It'll help you with panic attacks, all kinds of things. It's one of the first steps that helps you with meditation. But needless to say, we're on to bigger and better things. I'm very excited for the people that we're having as our special guests this week. Let me tell you, I overdid it the last couple of days. Dana overdid it. She emptied her tank. I did. Went out with my daughter last night. Special time. Walked far too much. Not a friend of mine, and went furniture shopping today with my husband. Rooms to go. We did get some sales. A special shout out to Michelle at Rooms to Go on Dawsonville Highway. I said I would shout her out. But anyway, that business taken care of. Our special guests are Beth and Rick Olsen. Let me introduce you. They have a YouTube channel. They have a podcast. They have written a book called We Never Left You. We Never Left You. I made sure to get my signed copy. But I'm going to introduce you by reading the back of it to give you a thumbnail of what they have experienced. Just a thumbnail. While people come in, okay? While people come in. In 1999, Beth and Rick Olsen experienced a tragedy that no parent should ever have to go through: the loss of their 2 children, Jessica and Joshua, in a car accident caused by a drunk driver. The immediate aftermath of such a monumental loss proved to be numbing haze filled with police, family, friends, and media. But it wasn't long before Beth and Rick began receiving messages from their deceased children assuring them they weren't actually gone, and ultimately proving the existence of life after death. Almost 16 years later, Beth and Rick share what they learned during their painful journey in order to help those who have experienced similar tragedy. Once again, living in a house filled with children's laughter, the Olsens prove that it is not only possible to survive such a devastating blow, but to actually thrive. Beth and Rick Olsen, married since 1987, experienced unimaginable loss when their 2 children were killed by a drunk driver in 1999. We Never Left You is their story of healing, written to help others who have suffered tragedy. The Olsens now live in Glenbullow, Glenbula, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Wisconsin, with their 3 children. Andrea Gagan has been writing, ghostwriting, collaborating, and editing for over 20 years. She helped write this book, I'm assuming. So, anyway, you get the drift. They are also a part of Helping Parents Heal, um, that I'm a part of as well. So, I want you to welcome them. We're going to start out as an interview process. They are going to tell you their story. Their channel is Married to a Shaman. I'm Married to a Shaman. They both have been walking a spiritual path. Rick is now a shaman. They reach out and help people. The journey. Hey, KK Bootsy and Scout Inquirer and Justin. Just a tea, please. Um, like I have told you about mine, they're very spiritual. The journey of a spiritual person is a fulfilling one. No one ever said it was easy. Um, in my opinion, when you lose someone, it's hard on everyone's account. It's your personal journey. No one said losing anyone is easy. I've lost a dad, grandparents, my child, etc. But I just feel like, in my personal opinion, that losing a child is vastly different. And sometimes it turns into much more of a spiritual one, I believe. It's gutting, yes. But the relationship doesn't have to end. It doesn't. So I would love for you to give a very warm welcome to Beth and Rick Olsen. I'm going to drop the link for them now. Remember, this channel is a no hate zone. Everyone is welcome from every religion, every spiritual journey, as long as you're not evil. And you know what our motto is: your vibe attracts your tribe. So please, everyone, give Beth and Rick Olsen a very, very warm welcome. And sometimes you know what to expect from me. I might go squirrel, but it happens. So here we go. I'm dropping the link for them. Please welcome Beth and Rick Olsen. It might take them just a minute. And you are more than welcome as we go. And I will moderate it. And my moderators, please be on the lookout. Help everybody. You're more than welcome to drop your question in the chat as we go. Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm
Hello.
so honored and happy to have you both.
Thank you.
And I know my channel is a little bit left of center, but I'm probably a little bit left of center. And I do have MS, so if I lose a word or I take a pause, I am not drinking alcohol. It's all water in my cup. Can you hear me?
We're getting two sounds here. We're getting your first sound, and then we're getting the echo about 2 seconds later. So
Okay. If you turn off the actual YouTube, turn the sound off of it,
okay, let me get to that.
and just listen to the StreamYard.
Yep, we got that down, but now we can't hear any sound.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Now you're
Wait.
talking. We got you.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay.
We're
Did
good
you
now.
hear what I said a minute ago, though?
It was difficult to hear because of
Okay.
the sounds.
On occasion, I might get stuck and can't remember a word or pause. Not all the time, but I have MS. I glitch sometimes. I'm not drinking alcohol. It's purely water.
We have our water
We
as
got
well.
ours too, so don't worry.
So I just have to explain. My community understands. I get glitchy. We call it squirrel. So, but I'm very pleased I got your book.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a habit of I like to get signed copies of authors,
Mhm.
and I got it, so I'm very pleased. I have a vast library. I don't particularly like to read my books on a phone or a computer, or you know what I mean.
Right.
I like to have the actual book in my hand.
Right.
Yep. Much better.
Yes.
Yeah. And I always say our book is really good. The first 5 chapters are the loss. And so I always recommend people, if you've had loss, like you've had, Dana, skip the first 5 chapters. Start with chapter 6, because that's proof there's life after death. And so
Yeah.
it's always go to that good spot. I have had too many people say, I couldn't get past the first couple chapters. So,
But you know what? It is part of it's part of reality. It is part of it is what it is.
Right.
right. Oh,
So
I totally agree.
so to skip it to me kind of diminishes the whole story.
Mhm.
It does in a way, but we would rather have people get something out of the book than not read it at all. So that's the only reason why we recommend it.
Uh, exactly why we recommend this.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying,
Hmm. Yeah.
but just like with my story is different because my son was in a wheelchair. But his loss was very traumatic and tragic and unexpected and not meant to happen when it happened
Right.
because it was an accident that was caused by the hospital.
Hmm.
But that being said, we get the many signs as well.
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's beautiful and bittersweet, and the communication continues, you know.
Right.
But please start with where you wish to start.
Okay.
Okay. So we typically start talking about, we take people kind of through some of the events of the first year that happened. And then we talk about where we've grown and developed from there. So we'll kind of do that. And we do like to do this informally. So if at any point, you want to jump in, please, by all means do.
I
Um,
will, trust me.
yep. Well, it's your show. You're entitled to. So in 1999, we had just moved about a month earlier to a town that was very close to Madison, Wisconsin. Madison's a large town. And I was in the process of taking over an insurance agency over there. And I was gone most of the week prior to that. And it came to the weekend, and Beth went off at an event with some friends,
Mhm.
which we'll come back to in a little bit. So it was Sunday afternoon, and I knew I was going to be traveling again the following week. And we had just bought the kids a puppy to help them to be able to make friends in the new town. And so we needed to go to the mall, the lumber yard, to look for some materials to build a fence for them. So we jumped in the minivan. I was driving. Josh was sitting behind me. He was our 7-year-old son, and Jessica was sitting behind Beth. She's our 9-year-old daughter. We pulled up to a stop and go light, and we were like the second or third car in line there, and we heard a siren. And we started looking around, and we saw from the intersection across from us coming towards us, there was a squad car with its lights on, and it made a turn to the left and took off. And as the light changed, the other cars around us pulled ahead. I paused for a second just to make sure that there wasn't anything else going on, and I pulled into the intersection. The next thing I remember is somebody telling me, "Don't move, you've been in an accident, I'm holding your neck, we don't know how bad you're hurt."
Right. So as we were watching the police car go through the intersection and turned away, Rick did pause. I think there was 2 cars in front of us.
Mhm.
They went through the intersection. Rick paused. We saw there was no cars coming. He went in through the intersection. And the next thing I know is I hear a huge noise. And we spun, the minivan spun, and I turned around to ask the children, what was that noise? And that's when I saw that Joshua was dead. Um, his neck was broken, and my daughter Jessica was hanging half outside the window. And I look at Rick and I can hear him. He's moaning. I know he's alive. Thank God he's alive. And so I look down at myself and I'm expecting something, blood, not being able to walk, but I had nothing wrong with me. So I jump outside, out the minivan, and instantly I was like I got to save my family, Jessica, let's save Jessica. So I instantly thought, I need a doctor. I need a doctor. And this person comes up to me and he places his hand right on my left shoulder and he says, I'm a doctor. And so is my wife. And we were in the intersection and we saw what happened. What do you want me to do? And I said, just get my daughter out and try to save her. So they did that. And then I was just aimlessly walking around the car. I was just loving Josh, just telling him I'm so sorry. I saw somebody by Rick taking care of him. So I knew he was okay. I was talking to that police officer. It actually was an off-duty police officer that was holding Rick's neck. And so he was telling me, he's fine. Just go do what you need to do. So right away I'm thinking I need a helicopter. I need to get Jessica to the hospital. We have to save her. So it was just awful. It was just kind of walking around, just trying to save my family. I saw people taking pictures. It was just bizarre and just the worst day of my life. We put Jessica in the ambulance, and we proceeded to go to the hospital. And I made phone calls. I started calling my family to say that Josh had died and that Jessica, we might be able to save her. So
I was still in the car, still at the accident site, and it took them a little while to be able to get me out of the car. They just wanted to make sure that I was okay and that there wasn't severe injuries. What had happened was a drunk driver had ran through the red light and became airborne and broadsided our minivan at 80 miles an hour. He hit right behind where I was sitting. He hit right where Josh was sitting.
So it broke his neck instantly.
That's why Josh died instantly. Eventually, they were able to get me out of the car. They put me in the ambulance, and they said, well, where do you want to go? I said, what do you mean, where do I want to go? I want to go wherever my wife and daughter went. So it took them a little while to figure out where they took Beth and Jessica. On the way there, they were able to figure out I wasn't that severely injured. So when I got to the emergency room, they put me in one of the curtained areas of the emergency room. And I was just laying in there waiting. And all of a sudden in the curtain next to me, I hear somebody yelling, let me go. Why am I here? I didn't do anything wrong. What are you doing to me? Let me go. Unbeknownst to everybody, they just put the man that had just killed our son and our daughter in the curtain room next to me. And so a little bit later, a doctor comes in and says, well, I'm sorry for your loss. And I said, I know, Josh didn't make it. He said, son of a bitch. He turned around and walked out.
So we figured that doctor was the one that was working on Jessica. He had no idea that we had another child that was, in the car who had died. So when I came in to get you from the room, the emergency room, I said, we have to let Jessica go. So that's what we did.
Yeah. So we went to say goodbye to Jessica. And then a little bit later, they let us know that Joshua had arrived at the hospital. And we said, great, we want to say goodbye to him. And they said, well, you can't. He's evidence.
Yeah.
You can't touch him. And we were in the state that we were in, just, right after the accident, we just went along with it rather than insisting that we get to go say goodbye.
Now I say, oh my gosh, I would have been like, I won't touch him. And I would have totally loved him at the time. But yeah, we were following the rules. Yeah.
So they let me out of the hospital that night, and we went home. And we eventually fell asleep, and we woke up the next morning, and Beth says,
I can't live my life without my children.
Yeah.
It was just the thought of it.
Yeah.
I said, well, can you make it through the day? And she said, no. I said, well, you can make it through the next hour. And she said, no. I said, how about the next 5 minutes? And she said, no. I said, all right, well, let's just try and make it through the next breath. Let's just lay here and breathe for a while.
Yep. We just held each other.
Yep.
And then
all of a sudden, Beth says,
I had to go to the bathroom.
life has a way of moving you along, whether you want to or not.
It just was, interesting how we had to get out of bed.
Yep, we had to get out of bed and move. Yeah. So the accident happened on a Sunday, and we had decided that we were going to go back to the town that we had just moved from for the funeral, because that's where the kids were born and grew up, and we had lived there most of our
family
life.
Was
our
there.
Families were there and friends. And so on Wednesday, we went back to talk to the funeral director. We had to go make arrangements.
Bring them this clothes
for the kids. And so we walked into the funeral parlor, and it kind of fit our mood. The lights were down. It was dim. There's nobody around. We're like, hello, anybody here? And eventually somebody comes walking up to us and says, well, can I help you? And I said, well, we're the Olsens, and, Jim is working on our children. And she says, well, let me go get him. And so we're standing there, just lost. And all of a sudden we see him walking towards us, and he's got this big smile on his face. And I'm thinking, you're an idiot. And he says to us, that Josh, he keeps turning the lights on and off and changing the radio stations. Can you tell him to knock it off? And we just looked at each other and said, what? And he said, Josh, he's changing the radio station and turning the lights on and off. Can you tell him to knock it off? I can't get any work done. Right. That was our introduction to our kids as spirit. That was our introduction to the fact that our kids weren't really gone. They were just someplace else, and we had no clue up to that point.
Right. It was 1999, and
right.
So our spiritual faith was nothing.
Right.
So for us, we thought maybe our kids were gone. So this gentleman, this funeral director, he introduced us to our children.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. It was, we were still kind of dumbfounded about it, but we were like, okay, we're going to go with that.
Right. And so that was Wednesday. The funeral was going to be on Thursday. And so
on Thursday, I have a friend in West Bend who's a medium. And so I called her and I'm like, can you see us? Can you please see us? And she said, of course. So before the funeral, we ran over to see Kathy. And she, we're talking with her for probably a good hour. And then we get up to leave. And then she says, wait, the kids are here. And so we sat back down and we were just super excited. And then she goes, nope. And it's funny because she kept looking up, kind of up to the upper left side of the room. And she just was like, no, Josh is not here. He's at Great America in, it's an amusement park in Great America in Illinois. And he's at the amusement park. She says, there are no lines in the spirit world. And so we laughed because we're like, that would be where Josh would go. A 7-year-old would be at Great America. I'm like, would have liked him to be with me. But so she kept looking up to the upper part of the room. And then she's like, did Jessica like fried chicken? And I'm like, I've never made fried chicken. And she says, well, she's saying she wants the chicken in the basket. So I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. So we went through like chicken and a biscuit crackers. We were trying to come up with what Jessica wanted. And all of a sudden it dawned on me. And so now I'm going to take you back to Sunday or that weekend when I was gone from the kids. I was shopping. Mm-hmm. I was shopping in an American Girl sale. Now these are heritage dolls. They're made right there in actually Middleton, Wisconsin. And they are dolls by the year. You might have an 1800 doll. You might have one that's from the 1950s. They have books. They have stories about them. They have clothing and accessories. So that weekend, they had a huge sale. And so I was with my girlfriends buying things for Jessica and my nieces. So on Sunday when I got home, Jessica was just closing her eyes. She didn't look at any of her gifts that I was bringing in the door, but Josh was helping me. And So we were putting things in piles on the bed, and I'm like, okay, these are for your cousins, and this is for Jessica. Well, then I get to this little chicken in the basket, and I have one right here, and I'll put it up here. So I get to this you got it, Ricky?
Yep.
Okay. I got to this chicken in a basket, and I said to Josh, I said, I bought this for your cousin Amanda, but it goes with Jessica's favorite doll, Josefina. Do you think Jessica would like it? And he said, I think she would, Mom. So I put it in Jessica's pile. And an hour later, then we left for the mall, and then they died. So now fast forward to back to, go to Kathy's. A lot had happened from Sunday to Thursday for me to take a little bit of time to remember that. But I was like, oh my gosh. So then I start telling Kathy and Rick about this chicken in the basket. And now we're bawling. We are just like, oh, they are alive. I mean, it wasn't like a doll. It wasn't a ball. I want my favorite blanket or anything like that. She wanted the chicken in the basket. And Josh didn't need to be there. He must have told her after he passed. And yeah, so it was amazing for us because we were like, we really have proof. We have proof that they are alive. So then we got up to leave, and she said, wait, they do have one more surprise for you in the car.
So we got out to the car, and, we're all excited. We jump in the car, and we're sitting there looking around, and, nothing's happening. So we're just kind of getting disappointed. Mm-hmm. So I started up the car, and there was a song that came on the radio. And at the time that the kids passed, their favorite movie was Tarzan from Disney. It was an animated movie. And one of the songs from that movie came on, and the title of the song was Two Worlds, One Family. So that song came on the radio, and so we were just happy, and we're blaring the music, and we actually went and got something to eat because we hadn't really eaten since Sunday.
So we went to Hardee's and had a roast beef sandwich, and we actually discussed letting this just be a wonderful treat present from our children, because we thought people are going to be like, oh, I don't believe it. And we didn't want any doubting Thomases being on our parade, right? So we were like, let's just keep this. This is a gift from our kids, right? So we go to the funeral, and we walk in, and our family is already there. And we had both our gorgeous children in one coffin. Jim was able to get an oversized man's coffin, and it was just heartbreaking. So we could see our family just suffering with, just the loss, and them also questioning if they're just dead in the ground. And so we decided to share it with the family. And, it was, you could tell it was helping them.
Right.
There was little little smiles, little like scratches on the head, like, really? No way. So we could see it took a little bit of the sting away. The thought of that they are still alive was really, they were hanging on to. Right. So then we started, we had to go stand in line and meet 1,000, not 1,000, excuse me, felt like 1,000. Hundreds of people. And as we are doing this, all of a sudden I could see my dad telling our story to people, and I was like, I looked at Rick, and I'm like, I was kind of mad. I was like, first we were going to keep this to ourselves. Now he's sharing it, and, they're sharing it. And yeah, so then it dawned on me, and I hit you, and I was like, we're going to write a book someday. I seriously, we need to tell the world that there is proof there's life after death. So yeah.
So it wasn't until 2015 that we actually wrote the book.
Yes. Well, and we got a ghostwriter. So yes, Andrea Cajun, which you were reading on the back of the book, she helped us because we could not digest that and put that on the pages. Right. It was too painful. So we were blessed with a ghostwriter.
Yeah, I just kept reading. Sorry.
So the funeral director was very generous, and he has a cabin in Colorado, and he offered it to us after the funeral. He said, you guys go out there, stay as long as you want, get yourself put back in place. And we really needed to do that because we began to discover that our world had stopped, but everybody else's world continued. And we needed to get somewhere to put ourselves back together. Not only from that, but this was a big event in the Madison area because the drunk driver was from a well-known family. He was a well-known individual. There was 2 kids that were killed. We were on the media, whether it was the radio, the newspapers, the TV, nightly for almost 2 weeks. And then it became at least once or twice a week because this whole process was now beginning with his trial and all of this stuff. And so between that and the beginning of the stuff with lawyers and everything else, we just needed to get away. So we started to get ready to get away, and we woke up one.
We got to talk about the dreams.
Yeah,
so, the kids died July 18th, 1999. So, as a woman, I had my cycle. And so after the cycle, I was saying to Rick, as I grabbed my birth control pills, and I'm like, why are we trying to control this world? We know there's no control in this world. And here we're trying to okay, let's not have children, right? And you said to me, we should heal from this. And I'm like, I said a bad word, effing not going to ever heal from this. And, you said, well, should still take the pill and let's just have a little time and get some peace from this or whatever. So then probably about 5 days later, I woke up and I said, I had a dream. And you said,
I said, I had a dream too.
And I'm like, you never remember your dream, which he doesn't. And so we shared our dream, and it was the same one. It was, you have to get the chemical out of your body. Chemical out of the body. Yep. So we threw the birth control pills. Excuse me. I threw the birth control pills away. I'm like, if spirit tells me something, I'm going to listen. Right. And so then we went to Colorado, the beginning part of August. And by the end of August, I am driving this big expedition down the mountain that we were in Colorado to get a pregnancy test. And I was pregnant.
Wow.
So, yeah. That was amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Not only because of the stress and everything else, but Beth only has one ovary. So,
yes. When I was 6 years old, I had it removed, and so crazy.
So Beth is pregnant now, and we ended up, throughout this process of traveling out to Colorado, and after Colorado, we went down to New Mexico because that's where Beth's parents lived. All along the way, we would continue to stop at, psychics or mediums because, like everybody else, we wanted to get in touch with our kids. We wanted to get all the information we could from them. And every time we stopped somewhere, the kids would come through and they would give signs or messages. Josh played with the lights in several of the places. And one of the places, the medium did some automatic writing. And the last sentence of what Josh had written, or what she had written in the message from Josh, was, "We never left you." And so when we were looking for the title of the book, we came across that 16 years after it had happened. And, because our ghostwriter said, "You'll find it. The title's somewhere." And all of a sudden we came across it and we're like, well, this is from Josh. Yeah. He told us we never left you. So let's use that for the title. Mm-hmm. So we got back after doing all that running around. We were dealing with, media and family and everything else. And, we tried, like everybody else, we were taking their advice and tried to go the path of the normal path of healing. So we started to see counselors, and it was difficult because everybody in the area knew about the accident. And so when we would go into a counselor and they would recognize us, they'd want to know the story, we'd tell them the story, and it just didn't work. I mean, one of the counselors said to Beth, told us, well, I can relate to your loss because I had a divorce. Another one said, well, I can help you get rid of the pain and anger by screaming into a pillow. And so we went through about a half a dozen of these counselors, and we would see them once and that was it. But
right. And it was so painful because it was like they were very inquisitive on what we had went through and what had happened. And so when you share your story, it's very emotional, and I would be so drained.
Right.
And we'd get in the car and I was like, I didn't get any help from that.
No.
I feel
Yeah.
awful.
Right.
And I paid them.
Yeah.
I was like, we just paid them like $250. I'm like, why are we doing this? And so it wasn't working for us.
Right. And so a friend of ours, who was a counselor, she had said, I've just started doing some work with some of these shamanic healing techniques, and there's a weekend seminar out in Utah. I think this might benefit for you guys. And I think you should go. And we said, well, might as well, because nothing else is really working. And so we went out to Utah, and the gist of the seminar was over the weekend is you were starting this process called a medicine wheel, and you were starting to work on your own personal healing, and you would utilize some of these shamanic healing techniques. And so when we got out there, after a break in the class, I went up to the instructor and I explained to him what had happened to us. And this was in November now. And he said, well, when did the accident happen? And I said, well, July. And he's like, okay. He says, you guys aren't working with each other. He said, in fact, I will work with Beth and my assistant will work with you, Rick. And so he asked if he could use Beth as a demonstration for the healing techniques we were going to do. And she agreed. Mm-hmm. And so he mentioned to us at another break, he said, I'd like to talk to you after the class is done. And so we met with him. And he said, I wanted to let you know that your kids came to me during the process of doing Beth's healing. He said, but they didn't come to me as little kids. They are very powerful, very old spirits. They were 7 or 8 feet tall, very strong. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, you were knocked unconscious during the accident, Rick, weren't you? And I said, yes, I was. But we hadn't told him any details about the accident. And he said, well, the reason why you were unconscious is that you've been a shaman in many lifetimes before, and you knew that path beyond death. Your role in that was to help those kids cross over. He said, you had to be unconscious for that. In fact, it's time for you to become a shaman again. You need to learn to be a shaman again. You need to start training. And so he was running an expedition to Peru for the turn of the century, because this was 1999. And for those of you that do remember, the Y2K, it was a big deal. All the computers were going to shut down. The world was going to end.
Yeah.
And so we thought, what better place to be than a third world country if the world's going to end, because they don't really care about computers anyways.
Nope. Yeah.
So we told them we would go with. It was over the holidays. And so our friends and family told us we were nuts, and we said, we don't care.
They said that charlatan is going to take all your money. We were like, we can have them. Yeah. But this gentleman spoke a different language.
Right.
He talked about our children being alive in his spirit. Yeah. And it was like, I need to learn your language. Mm-hmm. And so we were just like, okay, we're going to follow.
So we went down to Peru, and we were there over the turn of the century. And we ended up going to a number of sacred sites around Peru and Chile, and did ceremonies with the shamans down there. There's several different events that happened during that time. And one of them that took place is that we were doing a ceremony out in the desert on the Nazca Lines. And what the Nazca Lines are is there's these carvings in the desert floor that are thousands of years old, and nobody knows who made them or why they're there, but these carvings are enormous. Some of them are, 600, 700, 800 feet large, and you can't see them from the ground. You can only see them from the air. And one of the carvings is a spiral. It's a double spiral. So it makes a circle. It goes inwards, and once you get to the inside of the circle, the spiral turns and it spirals back out again. And the concept behind this particular ceremony was, as you walk in, you're leaving behind your past. You're leaving behind those energies that no longer serve you. And you make the turn in the center, and you walk out, and you begin to step into your destiny. Well, this was in the middle of the night that we were doing this, and I walked into the circle, and then I came walking out, and I had blonde hair when I went in, and I had white hair when I came out.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We were laughing because the moon was shining, and that was shining was on his head. So
Right.
it was just very odd. So even on, if you go on our weneverleftyou.com, you can see some pictures on there, and you can see him having blonde hair in Peru, and then it goes white. So.
Right. And so that took place. The group of people we were with were very spiritual, and we just enjoyed being down there and learning that language and being immersed in it. And one of the other things that happened is the instructor at the seminar and that was leading this, his name is Alberto. He told Beth, he said, you have to learn to begin to find beauty in the world. That's part of your healing process.
God, no.
And Beth used a few choice words to
I was
describe to him that was
crazy.
never going to happen. And so one of the places we went was a wildlife reserve, and it was islands that were out in the ocean. And you couldn't set foot on the islands because they were designated wildlife reserve for the seals and the sea lions and the penguins and the birds.
Oh, I would have been so happy. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it was wonderful. And we were out there in boats, and it's a bright sunny day, and the waves were going up and down, and we're watching all this wildlife. And all of a sudden I hear from the side of me, oh, that's so beautiful.
So beautiful. I'm like son of a gun. He was right. I found beauty. It was a good thing. It was really beautiful because, of course, the ocean and just the sounds, and it was very, very peaceful. So I was able to find beauty.
Yep, that was the start of Beth finding beauty again. And so we came back from that trip. We got back in the early part of January, and we had to go through the process of the sentencing for this person. And so that was our next big thing. And that took place in January. And it was obviously emotional. But we had determined throughout these few months that we weren't angry at the person that killed our children. We didn't want to give him that energy because it would do nothing to show who our children were.
It hurts the vessel. Yeah.
Right. And so, giving him anger and letting ourselves turn over to anger for that would just diminish who our kids were. So we didn't hold any anger towards him, but I mean, he wasn't going to be our best friend either. So we had no contact with him at all.
Well, and he was sentenced to 20 years to prison. He could have received 40 years per child, and he received 20. Now, we were happy with that. We were just happy he was going to jail. And he was, because he was able to, they orchestrated enough that he could stay out of jail until after Christmas, because he wanted to spend Christmas with his children. Yeah. So then he was locked up. We were happy with that. He wasn't going to hurt anybody.
And Beth was now, I don't know, 3-4 months pregnant at this point.
No, in January, I was probably 7 months pregnant.
January from August? No, probably not. Kid was born in May. You can't be 7 months.
Okay. Well,
anyways,
6 months. Sorry. Then
somewhere in that area. So anyway, she's pregnant. So we're trying to hide it.
I was hiding it in big bulky sweaters. I just didn't want his attorney to say, oh, look, you can replace the children. I'm like,
that's not,
kids. We didn't want to go down that route.
Yeah. So we got done with that, and we had decided that we were going to continue with this shamanic training because it really resonated with us. But we were going to, instead of doing the weekend seminars, we were going to go to this other
Healing the Light Body.
Yeah, we're going to take this other course, which was Healing the Light Body, which is basically, it's 8 days long, and it met 4 times over the course of 2 years. But the gist of it was you were going to still go through your own healing process, but you were going to learn the shamanic techniques so that you could learn how to heal others.
And you were like, I'm supposed to be a shaman. Mm-hmm. I'm going to heal others. And I'm like, heal me first, Right. So I always joke. I was like hanging onto his shirt tails going, okay, I'll just go with you. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but
right. One of the conversations that I began to have with Beth is that she
You're like, okay, tell them what the conversation was. Sorry.
I started thinking back about everything that took place prior to the accident, at the accident site, and afterwards. All of these synchronicities that lined up. The fact that, we were getting ready to leave and Beth had a spot on her shirt. And, she's like, well, should I change my shirt or not? And she decided not to. We got to the intersection and the squad car that was coming towards us and made a turn was responding to a domestic abuse call. The domestic abuse call was the drunk driver. He was at his parents' house. This guy was 40 years old at the time. He was at his parents' house. He had given his parents his keys. He was bought a whole bunch of alcohol because his wife wanted to divorce him, and so he was just going to get drunk. Well, he became, aggressive later on, and his parents are disabled, and they became fearful for their life. So they called 911 because of him becoming aggressive. And so that police car was responding to that domestic abuse, which was him. So he panicked, grabbed his parents' car keys, this big Crown Victoria, and took off. So as the squad car made the turn and went down the road, the drunk driver went past him at 80 miles an hour, and this police officer was able to see the whole accident in his rearview mirror. So he was able to call immediately for help, for first responders. The person that was holding my neck was a off-duty police officer that just happened to be walking by the intersection at the time the accident happened, and he jumped in to respond. The husband and wife doctor that Beth talked about in the beginning were in the intersection and saw the accident. So they were able to get out and give aid to Jessica right away. They had ambulances already en route to another scene, which they rerouted to us. Flight for Life was in the air already. They rerouted it to us. And so I started to tell Beth that I think this, you look at all of these circumstances that came together, I think this happened for a reason. And, I think this was supposed to happen. And obviously, her being the mother, she did not want to hear that.
Yeah.
I was still thinking I could beg God to, go back in time.
Right.
There's just, your mind is in shock. You're just trying to make, I'm ready to make a deal with the devil, right? Just to bring my kids back. And he's like, I think it was supposed to happen. And I'm like, what? Stop it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dana.
I can remember after losing Noah, my brain would still replay things like,
right.
If I did this and if I did that and if I did that, and I would remind myself that I can't undo these things.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would replay scenarios over and over again.
Yeah. I think that's a coping mechanism, right? I think, because I did that all the time. I was like, I'm going to go back and I'd change my shirt.
Yeah.
But that's what we were able to piece together, is that the reason why Beth had to be conscious at that accident site is she had to be able to see that anything and everything that she wanted, that she could have wanted to try and save the kids, was made available to her, and everything was done.
Right.
So that she knew that there was no doubt she had no doubt going forward that, well, if I would have done this, the kids would have been saved, or if we would have had this, maybe the kids would have saved. So we were able to figure that out. We both had a part in this, what we were supposed to do during that whole time of that accident. And Beth had to be alive. She's the mother. She had to see all of that, unfortunately.
You said alive, be awake. I needed to be awake.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people have asked, do you have nightmares? I've never had a nightmare, and I'm very blessed with that. But I am very happy to know my kids weren't suffering. They weren't calling for me and wondering where I was. So that did give me some peace. If you have some peace,
And in my experience, having had a near-death experience and gone to the other side, and when I have been connected to being here and being connected to people that have passed over, particularly children, when it's been traumatic, quite often angels will take the kids right away
Mhm.
before they can experience anything traumatic here.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they don't even experience the pain of it.
Right.
I so agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have to say again too, we experience so many doors when it's planned. So if it was your children's doorway to go because it was planned for you to be a shaman again,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
it was just like their doorway.
Right.
Exactly.
Well,
Right.
and we've come to understand that the reason why they were here for only a short period of time was to put us in a position to help other people, but also to allow them to help us from the other side.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they have done amazing things from a synchronicity standpoint to put us in positions to help people, to talk to them, to do that. And we'll share one or two as we go on here. The kids help when we do healings with others. They'll step in, and when we do shamanic healings, and they'll
Yeah.
help out with that as well. So, their role is on the other side now, and we know that at this point.
Exactly. And even when Joshua was about 3-4 years old, I told Rick, I said, he's an old soul. He's going to die early. He's not here forever. And you were like, what? You're just a nervous mom. And I'm like, no, I said, I just know he's going to leave us. And so I was really like, I had gun safety rules. If anybody has a gun in their home when you're playing there, you get the heck out. We had, of course, the fire safety, everything. I tried, just keep him as safe as possible. And I even had told friends too. I'm like, Josh is going to leave us. And they're like, how do you know? I said, he has big ears. I don't know. I can't explain it. He's an old soul. But yeah.
And it goes back to us thinking we can control everything when we can't
Right.
because there's
Right.
some kind of weird master plan
Yep.
Correct.
that we make before we even come here.
Right.
Yep. Most definitely.
So we decided we were going to continue with the shamanic training. And so in February, we went to one that was out in California. This was the same person, this Alberto. And it was held on some sacred Indian ground that they allowed people to come in on. And so, we're learning these techniques, and they were held in these old cabins, these old log cabins. And it was late one night. Beth and it was after class, and Alberto was still there, a couple other people, and his assistant. And we were practicing sensing energies on somebody that was laying on the ground. So I'm just kind of running my hands over it. All of a sudden, I feel this rush of energy, and I pull my hands back.
Mm-hmm. Well, and when we were, sensing the energies, this gentleman was on the ground. Well, against the wall, there was a window. And I looked up at the window, and there was like a bolt of lightning outside. And my thought right away was, oh, it's going to rain. We're going to have a thunderstorm. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in California. I'm not in Wisconsin. It's very typical in Wisconsin to have bad weather. And so I'm like, it's a drought in California. Well, then that bolt of lightning came in the building that we were sitting in. And I see Rick's hands go up. I see him go on his lap, and his eyes are closed. And I'm like, just kind of watching, and this building had 80s gold track lighting. And it was ugly, but all of a sudden one just started flashing. And, and then I see our helper. She's like, Alberto, get over here. Rick needs you. And so then Alberto sits by Rick, and he's like, Rick, you need to move. You can't just let that spirit just be inside you. That's, you got to start moving. Rick wasn't moving I don't think he moved for a good 5 minutes. But then I'm watching, then another track lighting is starting, and it's flickering. And then eventually they were all flickering. It was like a strobe light. It was so cool. Disco maybe.
Like
And
jiggy
of
with
course-
it.
Yes. And, in 1999, we had flip phones. Okay. We had a flip phone. It wasn't a bag phone. It was a flip phone. I wouldn't go, nowadays you'd grab your iPhone and you'd be like taping the whole thing. But didn't get it on anything because there was no camera. Anyways, so eventually you got up and you started to move. Rick's a 4th degree in Taekwondo. So Alberto said, start doing your basic form and move that energy through your body.
He said, you got to move that energy through you. If you don't move that energy through you, it's going to settle in your joints and cripple you. So I began to do these basic forms, and I could just feel these waves of energy come rolling off of me every time I was moving. And after a little while, he said, go outside and ground the energy as best you can. So I went outside and I was grounding energy, whatever I could do just to get this rush of energy out through me. And I have no idea how long this took. And I came back in eventually, and he's like, well, he asked me, do you know what happened? And I said, I have no idea. He said, well, we'll talk about it in the morning. He said, right now, you guys just go and get some rest.
Yeah. So we tried to sleep. And I was like, oh my God, you're making me nauseous. I've got this big belly, right? It's now February. And I'm like, I tried to turn away from him and I'm like, get out of bed, just get. And so he starts building this fire and I'm sleeping now and I'm like sweating. And I look and there's this raging fire in the little cabin that we were staying at. And I'm like, get outside. I can't stand you right now. I'm like, I just need to sleep.
So I got kicked out of the cabin.
Yeah.
So I went outside, and it was kind of a surreal experience because as I'm outside, I could feel and sense all the energy that was around me, the animals, the trees, the spirits, the rocks, I could feel all of the stuff that was going on. And I eventually came back in. I don't think I got much sleep that night. Mm-hmm. And we went to talk to Alberto the next day, and he said, well, what happened was that was the spirit of lightning. He said, the spirit of lightning wanted you and it hit you. He said, in the traditional shamanic cosmology, there's 3 ways that you are called to be a shaman. One of them is to, go through a traumatic experience in your life and have your life change direction and begin to deal with it. The second one is heal yourself from some type of a terminal illness. And the third one is to be struck by lightning. He said, when I travel with the shamans in Peru, if there's somebody that gets hit by lightning and the shamans are around, they will immediately take him on as an apprentice because that's a sign from spirit that you're supposed to be a shaman. He says, spirit wanted you and it came after you.
Good gosh.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, the baby's going in the belly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so we kind of joke about it because, I've had 2 out of the 3 signs, and so I'm not waiting around for the third. But evidently I wasn't smart enough to get this message the first time because 2 nights later the same thing happened again. Yeah. And so ever since that time, it basically rewired me. There's things I was allergic to before that I'm not now. There's new things that I'm allergic to. I can't drink alcohol. My ability to see and sense energy has just taken off exponentially. And so that to me was a pretty obvious sign that I'm supposed to continue to be a shaman. Mm-hmm. So we continued through the training and, began to try and incorporate that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so then let's talk about having Gabriel.
Yep, that was next.
Yep. So then, because I was thinking we don't need to share the whole story because I don't want to keep everybody because we still have more to share.
Yeah, we'll talk about that and then David's.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that makes sense. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was, of course, going to have a baby. And so here it's Mother's Day weekend and I go into labor. So Saturday morning, I'm in labor and luckily the doctor that was there, she had watched and she noticed something was not quite right. And so had to go in for emergency C-section. And they found out that the cord was wrapped around Gabriel's neck. So luckily, Gabe came out just fine. And on Mother's Day, that Sunday, I had a baby in my hands, in my arms. And his name is Gabriel Joshua. Yep. So, and then
that Sunday after you got zapped?
No, that was I got zapped in February and the baby was in May.
Okay.
So we just
May
jumped
13th.
ahead.
We jumped a little bit because I want to be respectful of the time and not keep everybody because we still have some more to tell.
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, Mother's Day weekend, I had a baby in my arms again.
Yeah. So since that time, we're going to kind of move forward to an event that occurred a couple of months ago. We have had 3 more. We've had 3 children. Gabe, and then we had 2 others, Ben and Grace. Grace is 18. All of them are in Grace is in college. Ben is a junior in college, and Gabe graduated. They're amazing kids. They're supposed to be here. We know that. We have continued to reach out to help people in different ways. As we move forward, we began to understand this is why we're here this time.
We teach classes, and we wrote the book, We Never Left You. And so, we go to Helping Parents Heal, and we speak at their conferences, and we just reach out to help people.
Right. And so throughout this whole time, we never, we're going to come back and talk about the drunk driver. His name is David. We never harbored anger at him, but we didn't want to really have any contact with him either. And as part of the sentencing, we had made sure that David wasn't able to use our name. He wasn't able to use our story. He could tell the story, but he couldn't use our name.
We were afraid. I was afraid he was going to be like writing a book. And making, and just publicizing it. And we just felt like that would be intrusive. So he was ordered not to speak of us or reach out to us.
Right. So he couldn't contact us. He couldn't get in touch with us or anything. And so because our kids were considered murdered, we get notified when there's any changes with his sentencing. So
his parole.
He was sentenced to two 20-year terms, a 20-year for one child, a 20-year for another. But because truth in sentencing hadn't taken place yet, he served 13 and a half years, and then he was out on parole. And so he would end up having to finish those sentences under parole. And so when those different things would happen with that, we would get letters.
So, and other times I would read them or I'd rip them up and just be, get rid of it. So on December 3rd, we received a letter from the parole officers saying that his parole had changed. And so it just kind of struck me as, oh, that's interesting. Throughout the whole process with him being released at 13 years, we had heard he became a minister while he was in prison. And so I thought, oh, okay. So we had heard that. We had heard he moved to Iowa. So we knew he wasn't going to be at our house. Not that we ever really worried about that, but he was in Iowa. So now I get this letter December 3rd, and I call you and I'm like, I don't know why we got this. Something has changed in his parole. And you're like, well, why are you calling me? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not feeling anything. There's like in the past, maybe ripped it up. So I came in the house and I Googled him. It was the first time I ever Googled David. I was like, well, what's going on, And I could see, because I was thinking maybe he was moving back to Dane County, Madison area. And it said that he was a minister in Iowa for 5 years and 11 months until present. And I'm like, well, what has changed? I thought that was really strange. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about David, and I was like, wow, what has all transpired in this 23 years, right? And then all of a sudden this thought, soul contract, spirit contract came into my mind, because we so believe in, as a family, we were here on a spirit contract. We all chose our roles, right? And then I'm like, whoa, was David part of the soul contract? So he would be the bad one. So he'd go to prison to become a minister to help people. And I'm like having the 80 track lighting thing going on in my brain again. I'm like, whoa. I'm thinking this, holy crap. So I called Rick into my office and I'm like, I think we should forgive David. I said, I think if he would have that dense energies and just know that we don't harbor hate for him, think of the people he could help.
Yeah.
Because he's part of this soul contract. And he's like, yeah, I knew that. I've known that for a long time. And I'm like, well, I may be a little slow, but no, I'm joking. So we did the due diligence and we started calling the parole officer, the number on the letter, and got the wrong officer. And that gentleman said, I will email the correct officer and he will get back to you. So a week passed and nothing happened. So then I called again. And I finally got to talk to the correct parole officer, and he's like, I've been wondering what's going on with David. So I'll contact his parole officer and I'll get back to you. Well, 2 weeks later, nobody's contacted me, So I am like a dog with a bone. And I'm like, let's Google him again and get his phone number and let's call him. I knew I wanted to do this. And I'm like, I just wanted to do it. And I knew it would help him so much. I mean, we're right around Christmas time here. And so when we first called, it went to an answering machine. And it said, if you want to talk to Pastor David, here is his number. And I'm like, okay, I'm in my office and I can't find a pen and paper. I just thought that was kind of funny. But so then we decide to call him again. Well, this time David picks up. And he's like, hello, and you tell it.
We said, well, David, this is Rick and Beth Olsen. And he's like, oh. He said, oh, I can't believe it. He said, no, it's not possible. He said, I saw your name. I saw Beth Olsen come up on the caller ID. I said, but it's not possible. And so you could tell he was very emotional and, just completely taken off guard. And so we just said, well, it's been 23 years and we have both been on journeys here. And we just thought maybe that it was time that we get together and just talk for a little bit about what our journeys.
Right. And he was taken back. And so I mentioned to him, I said, David, just know we have no hatred in our hearts for you. So we decided to text each other and come up with a date. And we came up with December 29th. He had a double check with his parole officer to make sure he wasn't breaking into the rules.
Yeah.
And so there we are, December 29th, and we're traveling to Iowa so that we could meet in his office, his parish office, so that he would be more comfortable there.
Right.
But in when we first spoke with him, he said, oh, and just know I'm only like 2 hours from Dane County. He still thought we lived in Madison. Well, we didn't correct him. But as we were driving to Iowa, I'm like, dang, we got to sit here for 3.5 hours and drive all the way. And I was, but we knew we needed to go see him. So at 12:30, we went into David's office, and the tension in the room was.
Yeah, it was David and his wife, his parole officer.
He had a new wife.
Yep.
Of 8 years since he was released from prison. So she was kind of, I think she was like, don't you hurt him. He was an alcoholic, so he had to, go to AA meetings and stuff like that. So right away, so we actually sat like this. There was a desk in front of us. I was on this side of you, and David was across the desk. And with the tension in the room being so high, I was just like, blah, 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 blah. I just told them almost, I think our whole life in 23 years and like in about 13 minutes, maybe. I was just like, blah, 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 blah. I just wanted the tension down. I just wanted them to know we weren't there to hurt them, and that we were there to forgive them, and I look at you and us. It's like, do you want to say something?
I said, well, David, did you want to say anything? Because up until that point, nobody could get a word. This was on a roll, so.
Well, so much had happened. We get so many signs from our kids, and we knew, and Gabe, our 3 children that we had afterwards are supposed to be here. So I just wanted him to I just wanted them all to have peace.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, obviously there was a lot of things he said, but a couple of things stood out.
And he also just wiped his tears.
Yeah, he kept wiping
constantly.
his tears away. And, David said, he said, when I was in prison, I felt so helpless. He said, because I knew that I had destroyed Jessica and Joshua. I knew that I had killed them. I knew that I had destroyed my own family, my wife and my girls. He said, but I didn't know what I did to the 2 of you. I never knew what happened. He said, I was afraid that I had destroyed you as well. And I thought about that constantly. And I was so afraid that you were destroyed as well. And he said, when I give the sermons on Sunday, there's always a moment of silence to pray for who you want. And he said, I always say the same prayer every Sunday. He says, I pray for the life of Jessica and Joshua. I pray for my girls, and I pray for Rick and Beth Olsen. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to tell him and show him that we not only survived, but we thrived, and we are on this journey to help and to heal. And you could just see the dense energy and the shift in him as this relief came over him, to that he understood that, we weren't destroyed. We were continued. I mean, we've been coming up on married on 36 years in April. And so we've stayed together, we've become stronger, and all of this that we're able to do. And so you could just see the tension leave him, and he just was so relieved. And as part of the conversation, I said to the parole officer, I said, I don't mean to be rude, but why are you here? And he said, in my 18 years of doing this, I have never had a request like this. He said, that the victims would want to meet with the perpetrator from a crime of this magnitude. He said, I had to be here, not only for that, but also to make sure that David was still safe. And so he said, I'll be honest with you. He said, I am amazed at what's taking place here. I cannot believe the gift that you're giving David. I've never seen anything like this before.
He said he was a parole officer for 19 years and
Yeah.
had never seen anything like this. So
Yeah.
it's-
And so we had been talking for about an hour and decided it was, time to leave. So
So we got up and we hugged. I don't know. I was going to hug him, but he wanted to hug, and and it was fine. And we all hugged. And then he says to us, he's like, I want to share with you my Bibles that I wore out in prison. He said I wore out 2 Bibles. I didn't know I'd even wear out 1 Bible
Right.
in my life, let alone 2. And he turns to the corner shelf in his office and he points to it, and it's right here. We have it blown up.
Good, thank you.
These are his 2 Bibles, and then the top blue book is his AA book. Just, I don't know if you can make out what the top white thing is. That's a chicken in the basket.
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
That's a porcelain chicken in the basket. And I was like, oh, I'm like, why is there a chicken in the basket on those Bibles? And he's like, or the wife was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Oh, she was thought she did something wrong. I'm like, she said, we thrift. I found it years ago for him. I thought it was hilarious. It was just a cute little thing. And I put it on there. And I told him a year ago, he should take it down. And he goes, no. I like it. I like it. So, oh my gosh. So I took pictures, as you can tell.
yeah.
Blew him up. And I said, we have one more story to tell you. So then we proceeded to tell him our chicken in the basket with Kathy, and how this little chicken in the basket saved us, right? I'm going away from the camera. There we go.
Over there.
And his Bibles and his AA book saved him. And there's a chicken in the basket on top of the Bibles. Yeah.
And
What are the odds? Yeah.
What are the odds?
Because the only thing that we've ever shown people on social media is that chicken in the basket. Beth has got 30 plus, 40 plus
Yeah.
chickens collected of the type that are
Porcelain.
in this picture here. And she's got them all over the house.
Yeah.
So we've never showed anybody that. So there's no way he could know that was that had the significance of that to us. And what I always think is amazing is that when you look at this picture, the things that saved David and turned his life around, those 2 Bibles are there. And the thing that saved us and helped to give us the direction is there as well. They're all in the same thing.
Right. I didn't have my picture of my ceramic ones, but I don't know. This is,
Yeah.
can you guys see my ceramic chickens in the baskets?
Yeah.
I collected them for 23 years.
Did you happen to see the chicken in the basket on the thumbnail?
Yes, we did. We did.
I did. I liked your little chicken. Yep. So we walked out of there. We were in shock. I mean, we hugged again, and he said, I won't contact you. If you want to get in contact with me, I'll allow you to do it. And I said, well, I'm sending you a picture of my collection of porcelain chicken in the basket. So we did that, and we left, and we got in the car, and my mouth was down to the floor. And I'm like, what just happened? Because we were going to forgive David and not do any social media on it. It wasn't for the world. It was literally between us and David. And we felt, okay, we'll just go home, maybe stop at Hardee's again. But then we were like, this was for us.
Right.
This is for the world again. This is incredible. So this is why we are.
Yeah, and
Helping,
just our
talking.
kids continue to amaze us. I mean, they give this sign for this chicken in the basket here. And, you know, I was thinking about it one day. It's like, how far back did they set all that up? You know, I mean, the first chicken in the basket was before they passed, you know, and so, and then it just, you start thinking about all of that and how far back will all these pieces put in place? And the circumstances that would have to take place for it to be a coincidence are just astronomical. So
Yeah.
these signs that you get from spirit, those synchronicities, and you know, this is why we had to go to Iowa, is to see that, that was the gift that our kids gave to us.
Right. Well, and we should also tell you that the parole officers don't know why we received the letter. There's nothing changed.
Nobody knows why that letter got sent. Both the Iowa parole officer and the parole officers in Madison are like, there's no reason for you to get that letter. You shouldn't have got that letter. And we're like, well, we know why. You know, the kids wanted to start us to get this part done.
Correct.
You know, but they're like, there's no reason for you to have gotten that letter.
Nothing changed.
Right.
You know, and I really appreciate the fact, Rick, that you let Beth in her own time come around to having the feelings that, you know, okay, I'm not triggered by this now.
Right.
You didn't try to convince her. You didn't try to push, even though you said, yeah, I've been okay with it for a while now.
Yeah. Well, that's just kind of how we are. I'm not the one in charge. She loves it when I say this. I said, I've learned to listen to spirit and my wife, and I stay out of trouble. So,
and I always say, then you should listen more.
It's that way here too.
Yeah, but we both dealt with this grief and this loss in our own ways, but we did it together. We supported each other, and we learned that through our process. Yeah. And so I knew that eventually Beth would get there, but she had to do it when she was ready.
And you know, it was that way here as well, because you're right. So many marriages end up broken when you lose a child.
Right.
Right.
And it's so important to go through it together and support each other rather than breaking apart.
We had people tell us this in the receiving line of the funeral. Oh, I hope you don't get divorced. You know, 90 or 95% of the couples in this situation get divorced.
We heard the same thing.
Yeah, and we're like, what a stupid thing to say. We often joke about it, we're going to write a book about the stupid things to say at a funeral.
You know,
seriously.
Well, and it's such a devastating time. I hadn't even thought about possibly divorcing him or losing him. I mean, why? Don't say that, people. No.
Right.
It scared the shit out of me. Right. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't swear.
That's okay. And the other thing, it's bad things people say, and it's not bad, but they'll go, what do you need? You don't know anything you need when you've lost a child.
Right.
You're having to remind yourself to take a breath. I mean...
Most definitely.
The answer at that point is simple. I need my kids back.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. So that's pretty much our story to date, you know, and now we just love it.
I have a question about, oh my gosh, thank you, honey, for the super sticker. That's my honey. He's watching.
That's great.
It's very cool.
He's a good human too. I adore you both. Let me just say that first and foremost.
Well,
thank you.
I'm very grateful you're here. It's nice to meet another deeply spiritual couple, because we go through a lot of signs, and we're the same as you, didn't want to share so much of it with others because we didn't want them to poo poo it
Right.
because we knew what we were experiencing.
Hmm.
And I have found that a lot more than not, parents that have lost children experience the signs.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
Um, it's amazing to me, really. It seems to be a dynamic that I see more often of parents that have lost children than people that have lost spouses or parents, or not that people don't, but I just see it more often with
Right.
parents that have
I
lost
agree.
children.
Yeah.
I think too is I think because you said it earlier that we're so ripped apart and we are very, very vulnerable, but yet, I mean, torn to shreds. And so I think we maybe are a little bit more open to the signs
Yeah.
and that we're looking for them. I
Yeah,
mean, we're looking for feathers and butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's, when we're talking with people trying to help them when they're, dealing with the loss and grief, and one of the ways that we kind of describe this is you can really look at this only one of two ways. These signs that you're getting, either they're a sign from your kids or they're not. So think
yeah,
about it this way. If it's not a sign from your kid or kids, that means then there is no life after death. There's nothing more after that. And so how does that set your stage for how you're going to live the rest of your life
yeah,
and face the end of your life? It puts you in fear the whole time. But if you accept that those are signs from your kids, that then lets you know there is life after death. There is a continuation. There's more that's there. They have the ability to reach back across and give us hope. And accepting them that way changes your whole dynamic on how you view life and how you live life and how you approach death. You're now not living in an aspect of fear, you're living more in an aspect of hope and love. And it makes a huge difference on how you approach life.
and partially that's one of the reasons I opened this channel. Of course, I want it to be like a new day, Dear Abby, because my background is a trained psychotherapist, but I have the scientific and I have the spirituality because I had the near death at 12, right? And my son couldn't speak. So it opened up a lot of what I already had and was trying to hide because I felt like I talked to him all the time.
Right.
Because it was,
Right.
I had to let the gifts be. I had to say, okay, I'm going to let him be because I have no other choice.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't talk to me in a normal way. And then when I lost him, it was like, okay, buddy, I'm here. Just open everything. Just open it on up. But I was grateful that I'd had the near death then because everything made so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I knew for a fact there was life after death. Because I'd had the opportunity to be there. And it made it, how do I say it? It sort of saved me
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
after I lost Noah.
Yeah.
It made me able to cope better. So then
Right.
I thought, okay, I have this channel. I'm going to admit to people I had an NDE because I
Mhm.
didn't want to admit it. I got on Brian's channel. He talked me into admitting it on his channel, and I almost backed out. You know Brian Smith.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I almost backed out because I was terrified.
Yeah.
Right.
So I finally admitted it on my channel and admitted some other things and decided I'm just going to help people on here.
Right.
Right.
So now I see you just openly doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's okay, world.
Mm-hmm.
So we have done some live healing on here and found, I always go, I make no promises because I studied quantum healing. Um, okay, now I'm glitching. Dana, I know what it's called and I can't remember. I'm glitching, help me. I studied quantum healing, energy healing, and then the other one is Reiki. Okay, there it
Reiki.
is. Reiki. And so I've sort of combined them, and a couple of us have done it, but he's lost his child in August. So Steve is not available to us at this time.
Mhm.
But we did some live on here and made no guarantees, and it has worked
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because the computers are energy as well,
Mhm.
and we've been amazed that we've seen some things that could verifiably show us proof
Mm-hmm.
because there were skin conditions and things like that, or someone had a abscess on their mouth, or pain in their jaw, etc. Anyway, there was proof it worked.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So it amazes me because I want to show people that you know um, religion, spirituality, science aren't separate from each other.
Right.
Correct.
They're combined, and it doesn't separate you from Creator or God or whomever you wish to choose.
Right.
Yep.
So on my channel, I welcome every religion as long as you're not evil.
Mhm.
I welcome everyone that's a good human. And here your vibe attracts your tribe. And I try to teach people that, you try to resonate higher and try to help people and try to look people in the eye and show them that you matter,
Right.
Right.
right? And that if you've lost someone, that doesn't mean that they still do not survive, just not in a physical sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I came across you two again, it was like a blessing,
Yeah.
a blessing, blessing, blessing.
Yep.
Yeah, energy's not limited by time or distance. A good portion of the healings that I do are remote. And literally, I do remote healings all over the world. And so, this capability of being able to connect energetically, utilizing phones or computers or whatever it is, or even if you're not in touch, can really take place. And, we've seen some amazing synchronicities and some amazing things that have taken place healing as a result of that. And it's the more people that we can get to engage in energetic work and to put forth that kind of effort, the better off we as a human species are going to be, as well as it helps with the overall healing of the earth and the world.
And more people together doing healing at the same time
Mm-hmm.
is major.
Yep.
Mhm.
It just increases it. But I did have a question. See, I went squirrel. I was going to ask you something
Okay.
else, and I went whoop.
Okay.
Your children that you have now,
Yes.
do they feel connected to your children that passed?
I think they feel connected because Jess and Josh are very much part of this family. I don't think spiritually, I don't think they connect with them spiritually. Like,
Didn't Ben get a necklace?
oh yeah, my Ben actually wears a necklace that says Jessica and Joshua, but yet not spiritually do they connect,
Right.
but they're like Jess and Josh are still alive in this family. We have
Yep.
pictures everywhere. We talk about them all the time. Our breakfast conversations throughout their childhood would always be about life after death, or
Right.
a healing that you did, or please be quiet. Dad has a healing in his office right now. So they have embraced it and they
Right.
love it. Do they share it with friends a whole lot of times? No.
No, they don't.
Hey, my dad's a shaman. He's doing his thing in there.
Well, it's funny because we've got Gabe, who's the oldest, is fully engaged in it. He loves it. He likes to hear about it. He's interested in, taking the classes someday. Ben, who's the middle boy, is, the traditional football player, big, strong guy. He is scared to death of ghosts. And so anytime we talk about it, or because occasionally there'll be spirits that'll follow Beth or I home and they'll hang out for a while until I can help them cross over. And, we had a couple of women that were spirits that were hanging out in the basement, and we had talked about it. And I said, they're not hurting anybody right now. They're just hanging out for a while. They told me they're going to be here for a while and then move on. And so Ben was like, well, okay. He wasn't real keen on that. And so he had a couple of his friends over one night, and there's like 4 or 5 of them, and they're all big football players. And all of a sudden, 2 of them are look back, and they're like, "Did you hear that?" I'm like, "Yeah, we heard 2 women talking back here." And Ben's like, "No, you didn't." So then he told him the story about, yeah, well, my dad says there's 2 women down here talking. Well, they all went from the basement up into Ben's room. They wouldn't stay in the basement anymore. And it's like, oh, Ben, you're safe in your bedroom because spirits won't go up the stairs.
They can't go through walls and doors.
And then our youngest daughter, Grace, has actually seen spirits on several occasions. So they know about it probably much more than kids of their age. They're used to associating with it. They haven't jumped into it as much as we have, obviously because we've been with it for much longer. But I think as time goes on, they're going to engage in it a little bit more.
Thank you for answering that question. I just didn't know, when you have that kind of thing going on, how the kids dealt with it,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter's used to it. When she was little, it was just a normal thing. Now that she's older, she's kind of on the fence, She tells some of her friends she doesn't.
Right.
My husband sensed it from me from the moment he met me, and he's all in. But he's an IT guy. He's just real straight-laced, but he's all in with me. But you get what I'm saying.
Yep,
I do.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's beautiful, Yeah. Not everybody has to have this type of connection, It works well for us, but that's for sure. But at least he accepts it, and honors it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We love each other. I'm very
Yeah.
fortunate. Yeah. But I'm so happy to know you 2 more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know it was so sweet. You sent a messenger out to me, and it's like, I'd like to, talk with you. And it was so sweet of you that you did that.
It was the weirdest thing. I have to tell you. I just all of a sudden landed on you.
He's just gonna run out to
and felt
the dog.
compelled to send the message. I'm going to be serious.
Yeah.
I landed on your video that day and felt compelled to send the message. It was like I was being pushed.
Oh, that's cool. Look at now. We're here.
Yeah.
It is so cool. Yeah, I'm so grateful that you did.
And I am really telling everybody in the chat, everyone watching in the bushes, everyone that's going to watch on the replay, please, 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 please go subscribe to their channel. I'm going to put all of the information underneath this video. They have a podcast. They have a channel. They have the book called We Never Left You. Where can everybody find your book, first of all?
It's on Amazon. Or you can also get it off of our website. Our website is weneverleftyou.com. And then I could also autograph it. So if you want an autographed copy, then go to the weneverleftyou.com, and then I'll send it out autographed. Otherwise, Amazon, it won't have our autograph in it.
And where can they find your podcast?
Our podcast is everywhere. Spotify, Amazon. Rick just kind of signed up everywhere that you can, whatever type of modality you use, it should be there.
And
I think he signed up for 6 of them, 6 or 7 podcasts. She was just asking where our podcast can be found.
RSS.com is we're wholesome, but you can find our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google, all of the major places for podcasts is where you can find it.
And is the podcast called I'm Married to a Shaman?
Yes, it is.
Yep.
And Beth came up with that name for that originally, because
I was thinking of him,
right. And
I'm married
so,
to him.
yep, a little while later, I said to her, "You do realize you are also a shaman. So
I
I'm
know.
married to you too. So this works both ways."
Right. Yeah. So it was kind of a cool little title that we
Yep.
came up with, that I'm married to a shaman. So,
So, are you able to train people to become a shaman?
Yes, we do run classes both in person and online for shamanic, medicine wheel for learning some of the shamanic healing techniques.
and those are all on our website.
Yep.
Right.
We have classes for loss and grief and
Basic energy
Yeah.
and divination, different things like that. Rick teaches that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's just we try and offer a mix because we know some people are at different ranges for their understanding of energy and spirit as well as their understandings of grief and loss.
Definitely.
Yeah, most
So,
definitely.
like I said, I'm going to put everything in existence. Oh, thank you, Eden. That's my daughter. I'm going to
Oh,
put everything in existence as they do underneath this video when we're done.
thank you.
Good, thank you.
And I greatly I'm pushing energy. I'm pushing energy.
I
And
love it.
I'm
Thank
going to
you.
hypnotize all of you to go subscribe to their channel
Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
podcast and buy their book.
Yeah. Well, what's really neat about our YouTube channel or even the podcast is Rick did a lot of meditation videos on there. So he's got his rattle going on there. There's one that he does that's a 15-minute, clear your chakras. There's a journey to the upper world, meet your spirit guide type of thing, and really good. So besides us talking, this talk is on there as well. But then we also have the meditation videos.
Thank you for your super sticker, Virginia Woolf. Thank you for your super sticker, my daughter Eden Angelica.
Aw,
Nice.
very sweet.
Yeah, her loss of her brother was very difficult on my
I
daughter.
bet.
Yeah.
Because when your brother doesn't speak, you become super connected in almost a telepathic way.
Right.
Right.
And thank you, my hubby bubby. We went furniture shopping today, and we were in a large debate over furniture. And let me tell you, he had me gaslit so hard. He had me wound round and round and round trying to get me back to his furniture. But
What did you buy? The one that you liked?
my furniture.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
Very cool.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yep.
Exactly.
Listen to spirit and your wife and you stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
My husband grew up in Denmark, but he was technically American, so he speaks English.
Okay.
We're like the Danish Ricky and Lucy,
Okay.
if you can imagine that.
Yeah, I can.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
easygoing overall. You hear the southern accent, the Danish accent, so you can imagine.
Yep. There'd be some interesting conversations.
It is. But is there anything else that you both beautiful humans would love to share?
Well, I know somebody just asked in the comments the name of the channel. I'm Married to a Shaman. That's the name of both the YouTube and the podcast.
Yeah, I'm married to a shaman. Thank you, Lady Spellbreaker. She lost her daughter as well. And she has been learning to navigate the trauma of it. She found her.
Good.
Actually.
Good. Well, these are the type of resources that we need more of. We need more, people like you to just provide a place where people can stumble into it and find it, because it isn't really stumbling it. Their kids push them in order to be able to find the resources that they need.
Right.
And so it's wonderful that she found that she can connect here.
Yeah, and she's very Lady Spellbreaker's very knowledgeable about psychology and stuff, but learning to navigate loss and then learning to walk the spiritual path. Sometimes I think it once you go through the grief of it and it cracks you wide open,
Mm-hmm.
if you get to the spiritual path, it I mean it changes you any way you look at it.
Right.
But if you can find your spiritual self and you learn how to help others, I did find helping others helps heal. It helps heal yourself as well.
Right.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
And one of the things we've found is that, it's been 23 years for us.
Yeah.
And, we've had time. We've had 3 other kids.
Correct.
And one of the things that we love is that we're just able to provide hope for people that have had loss recently. They can look at us and say, hey, look, they lost 2 kids, both at the same time. They lost all their kids at once.
Yeah.
Yet they're able to move forward. They're able to not only survive, but to thrive.
Yeah.
And so we're grateful that we can provide that opportunity for people that they can just look and say, if they did it, then I can do it.
And the fact that you can say and not look cray cray that you realize that there's an other side, that you get signs,
Mm-hmm.
and just because the physical body diminishes does not mean that the soul does,
Right.
and that we never die.
Right.
Exactly. Most
And
definitely.
I repeat that, and I'm like, you know what? If you believe me, that is beautiful and wonderful, and I'm happy about it. And if you don't, and you think I'm crazy, that's okay too,
Right.
Exactly.
because I know what I know, and you have a right to believe whatever you want.
I so
Yeah.
agree.
Right.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
if we can put a face of well, they look like they're kind of normal, then that's good.
Hmm.
You know.
Most, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm glad we could help, Lady Spellbreaker. Helping Parents Heal is an organization that we've become involved in that has been around for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, something like that. That is a worldwide organization that helps people that have lost children. Um, our channel itself is called I'm Married to a Shaman. But, if you aren't associated or don't know about Helping Parents Heal, I would encourage you to look them up because they've got amazing resources to help people.
Well, it's helpingparentsheal.org,
.org. Okay.
or you can
Yeah.
find them on Facebook, Helping Parents Heal. So
And they're one of the best around. Period.
they are. They
Mhm.
definitely are. They actually, you can talk about signs, and
Right.
they have mediums, lots of mediums, and they're just right. And they don't like to use the word died,
Right.
or, I love that too. They always say, don't use rest in peace. We don't, I love their terms and keeping
Yeah.
them alive. Yep.
Yep.
But anyway, I shall not keep you any longer. I'm
It's
completely
fun.
grateful and honored, and I appreciate your time.
We appreciate you and everybody who joined. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see Scout had said he subscribed. So thank you. We so appreciate this because, again, this is for the world to know that there's these signs that there is life after death. And we just, really want to just keep sharing that.
And
because
can they find you on Instagram as well?
Yeah, some
Yes.
of the links that we sent, there's 2 Facebook links and 2 Instagram links. It's for both Beth and I. So
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yep.
yeah, it's on there as well.
I'm gonna smother you on everything.
You're so sweet.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody, for coming.
And I'm gonna put you on my Twitter as well. So
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
thank you so much. I
Oh my
will be
gosh. We
contacting
are
you
so grateful.
Yes.
because I want to talk to you more about the shamanism and stuff. So,
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, you've got my numbers. We've got emails. We're gonna be in touch for sure.
have a beautiful rest of your weekend.
Yeah.
Take
Thanks.
care.
You too.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
everyone do your due diligence and subscribe to them. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know them. They are beautiful human beings. They have a lot of wonderful stuff on their website, on their channel, on their podcast, in their books, everything. If you were in the replay gang, I hope you watched the whole thing. I have the book. I bought the book. I got the I got her to, or both of Rick and Beth to, write their stuff in here. You can tell I'm getting tired because I'm starting to lose my words. I got it autographed. Gang. Yes, I did. Thank you, Virginia Woolf, for putting that link down there. Hey, Michelle Cannon Free. You can watch the replay after, and in a little while, after I get some food in my belly, because I haven't eaten today, that's probably part of the problem. I'm going to put all their links underneath the video. So, look, quality work, beautiful people. I married a shaman, and you can believe all of their stories. Thank you, Gina Maxey. Love you too. I love you all so much. So much. I'm going to have some more guests during this next month. I am. If I didn't get to any of your questions, please throw them down in the comments. Thank you, everybody, for the super stickers and super chats. Thank you, Virginia Woolf, Lady Spillbreaker, my daughter, my husband. And I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of your weekend. Anybody in the replay gang, if you have any questions, throw them down in the comments. I always love to hear your questions, and I always reply. And as always, remember, your vibe attracts your tribe. And now we are going to go. Thank you for coming here and watching this wonderful, you have a foot in both gangs and camps. Okay? Thank you for watching this wonderful show with these awesome guests. I shall see everyone next time. Ready? We are out. Dun, dun,
When you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and obtain anything you want, anything you need. Your mind's got the key ingredient, it's belief. They deceive with the negativity, but I just slide right by that energy. Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go.
Bye, everybody.
Go, 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 go.
Until next time.